This essay example, as well as thousands of others, is available in text format on our website for free and without registration. Simply Google Ivy Panda Free Essays.
Introduction. Arranging and replicating experiments is regarded as a precious managing experience, as the performer learns to utilize the resources available and rule the entire replication process. Therefore, the aim of this paper is to describe the process of an experiment dedicated to studying paper towels and their absorbency characteristics. The results of the experiment will be recorded following the aims and principles of scientific research and the requirements of scientific inquiry. Project plan. The project aims to confirm that more expensive paper towels absorb larger amounts of water. The independent variable is the weight of water that the different towels will absorb, and the dependent variable is associated with the number of samples and the price of the towels. The experiment will be aimed at measuring the volumes of the water absorbed by each towel. This is needed for defining the reasonability of purchasing more brandy and expensive paper towels. Literature review. As stated in most research dedicated to studying the origins of paper tissues and technologies, the more porous structures are featured with better absorbency. More complicated technologies achieve these structures. However, some kitchen towels may also be impregnated with special capillary active substances that will decrease the absorbency. Experimental design. First, at least 4 brands of paper towels will be taken, 5 equal samples each to decrease the error rate. Each sample will be weighted, as the samples may be of different densities and masses. Then, each sample will be placed into the water for 25 seconds and then weighted. This will help to remove the squeeze force factor, as samples may be squeezed with various forces that will cause the distortion of the results. The second stage of the experiment may be arranged. The only difference is that the samples will be placed on the scales in 30 seconds after taking them off the water. This will make some water flow down, and new characteristics will be discovered. Compared with the generally accepted absorbency measuring method, when water is squeezed out of the samples, this method will not consider the squeezing power, hence, it is more accurate. The method was taken from the biology experiments experienced when the samples were weighted after the reaction. Moreover, the porous structure of the towels will not let the experimenter squeeze all the water, which will cause sufficient distortion of the experiment results. Sequence of events. The quantitative data will be collected with a ruler and scales. The ruler will be needed for cutting equal pieces of the towels, and scales will be needed for weighing dry samples and then for weighing samples after immersion into the water. Variables. The independent variable is the weight of the samples before and after immersion. Dependent variable. The weight of the water absorbed is the dependent variable that is defined by the absorbency characteristics of each paper towel sample. Controlled variable. The amount of samples and time of immersion, time of flowing down in the second part of the experiment. Threat reduction. The cause-effect relations between dependent and independent variables are defined by the amount of water absorbed by the towels. This will be controlled with the stopwatch, and the outside influence is closely associated with the matters of the inaccuracy of the experimenter's assistance. Hence, terry towels are needed to increase the safety of the experiment and reduce the threat that water spills may cause. Hypothesis. The more expensive brands of paper towels will absorb more water, and the difference between the initial weight and the weight after immersion will differ for different brands. The second stage will involve measuring the porous characteristics of the towel samples, while the flowed down water will help consider the absorbency characteristics of the cellulose structure. Additionally, more brandy samples may be impregnated with capillary active substances that will improve the absorbency characteristics. However, these may be intended for cleaning and grease-removing purposes, while their absorbency features will be lower in comparison with cheaper samples. Such a presumption was achieved after a study of the chemical composition of various cellulose structures and capillary active substances used for dishwashing or laundry. Results. In accordance with the findings and results of the experiment, the absorbency level of paper towels is defined by the paper's structure and impregnation, if any. The brands were ranged in accordance with the price, while the results did not confirm the hypothesis. Therefore, brand 3, which is a bit more expensive in comparison with brand 2, absorbed less water, and brand 4 absorbed the largest amount. However, in accordance with the hypothesis correlation presumed, brand 3 was impregnated with a capillary active substance. Hence, these samples are more suitable for grease removal, while the water absorbency level is decreased slightly. Conclusion. The experiment was performed in accordance with the stated hypothesis, and the results that were achieved confirmed the general statement of the key aim. Therefore, it is stated that more expensive brands of paper towels are featured with higher absorbency characteristics, while some deviation is possible. This deviation was found and confirmed by weighing samples of paper towels after immersion into water. If you want to find more works like this report on paper towel absorbency characteristics, head over to ivpanda.com. It has a collection of free samples with thousands of submissions covering virtually all academic subjects. No registration required to access it.